It was an average night. The kind of night I figured I'd hop on Team Fortress 2 and play some Spy, as I've done so many times. I got on and checked the server list. Somehow, there was only one server on the list. A server simply titled, Capture the Intelligence. I figured it would be worth a shot, so I joined. I found my Spy in a dark, vacant room with winding hallways and a rusty, droning ambience. What kind of server had I joined? Trying to exit the server, I discovered I was stuck. All I could do was capture the intelligence. So I went and looked for the intel, hoping ending the round would allow me to leave. I held my breath. The player list was empty, but I felt I was not alone in this sinister server. Hello everybody! It's me, Dregobob. Welcome to today's video on the channel. Today's content will be a little bit different as we're covering a game I once played back in the early days of my channel when I was a gaming content maker. But today, we're looking at it under a more analytical lens, as the final update to said game was released a while back, and I feel there's enough here to make a decent video. The game in question is called Capture the Intelligence, one of the best TF2 themed horror games I've had the pleasure of playing. Then again, it is one of the few I've ever played. As is the norm for this type of thing, I'd love it if you went and gave the game a try yourself, as it's completely free and has a challenge mode with well over 50 levels, not to mention achievements and a full story mode of sorts. With that out of the way, I'd like to thank the thumbnail artist of today's video too. You can find them in the description, as well as a Game Jolt link to Capture the Intelligence itself. With that, let's hop in. Let's begin the game on normal mode to start with. As we move level to level, I'll explain each freak we see, as well as the info provided to us kindly by the game's creator in a little document. The game's first level leaves little to the imagination. We're here in CTF Turbine. The game takes place from a top-down view, though the camera is just close enough to the player to make seeing or trying to guess what's just beyond you to be a little bit hard and at the same time scary. However, all monsters make an audible footstep noise as they move about the map. This level is simple. You have to navigate, grab, and capture the intel 3 times while avoiding Heavy, who's doing a little worse for wear by the looks of it. They're fairly easy to avoid, though the addition of wood debris that block pathways each time you capture the intelligence makes avoiding the Heavy a bit hard at times. But this level overall is the most easily passed. Before we move on to the next level, let's look at the bestiary. First, we meet the Heavy, a relatively normal monster that guards Turbine according to the bestiary. It wanders the halls of Turbine, camping at the intelligence capture points to ambush an unlucky spy to stumble across him. As you capture more and more, he will place barricades around the map to complicate your route. Of the monsters, Heavy is the most normal looking, beyond the shattered jaw and missing eyes at least. In this level, Heavy is also confirmed to be the one placing barricades about, and will respond to nearly any loud noise, be it you calling out for medic, taking the intel, or capturing the intelligence. With that, we'll look at the map's bio later to avoid any spoilers. The next level takes us to GM Construct. The goal of this level is to fill a jeep with gas cans scattered about the level while we deal with the Soldier, the first fairly twisted merc we see, as they now run about the map on all fours. While unavoidable if they see us, we can stun them for a time by calling out for medic. Judging by those big ears, loud noises are not something that they can deal with very well. There isn't too much to go off of yet, but it's odd how we seem to go from one twisted version of a TF2 map to one we all know is from base Scariest mod. When we finally gather enough fuel to escape, Spy floors it out of there, running Soldier over in the process, bringing us to the next level, Bridge. But let's look at the Soldier in the bestiary first. Soldier is described like this. The Soldier slowly lurks toward you, never once losing your trail. If you let him get close enough, he will start charging at you, running faster and faster until you can no longer outrun him. He can be avoided by simply staying far enough away from him, but if he's charging, you can stun him for a time by scaring him with a loud sound, making him harmless for a time. Looking at his render too, you can really tell how squished looking his head is, not to mention the comically large ears only visible in his kill animation. Now let's move on to the next map, Bridge, which is inhabited by 2 monsters instead of 1 this time, the Pyro and the Snipers. Plural, as in this level, you have to activate 2 generators and escape, while fleeing away from a slow-moving Pyro who always knows where you are. The kicker being, you have to walk incredibly slow to ensure the snipers all over the bridge don't snipe you. Back when I originally played this game, I actually didn't realize running would cause the snipers to insta-lock you. But after passing this fairly simple level, we're brought to the Cornfield. But as you know the drill, on to the bestiary first. We have the Pyro here first, a mangled, skinny thing with a head too big for its lithe body, and its arm replaced with a now enlarged oxygen tank it would typically wear on its back. Now, while the Pyro will always track you down, he's pitifully slow, sulking towards you at a pace you can easily outwalk. Despite this, he can prove to be a dangerous presence when paired with other threats, either by forcing you to stay moving or by simply standing in inconvenient spots. As non-threatening as he looks, he's just as lethal as any other threat. Next is the Snipers, and again fairly regular looking group of, well, snipers. Duh. However, from the neck up they almost look comical. Well, they actually are. 1 massive eye, 1 squinted shut, and a wide grin is all that's notably different about this set of monsters or freaks. Now for their bio. A hive mind that wants nothing more than to plug a bullet between your eyes. They cannot move or kill you on contact, but if you move in their line of sight, they'll begin to ready a shot. Move too much and they'll fire, killing you instantly. If you sprint in their line of sight, they'll ready their shot much, much faster. To avoid them, move with care and stop moving to throw their aim off. Now we're on to the Cornfield level, where there are, this time, 3 monsters. The Medic, Scout, and Demo Man. Each function in a way that helps the other, and on top of this, the level requires you to gather 5 security cards to be used to open doors leading to the level's exit. It just so happens the Demo Man is stationed at said doors, and by looking at you, they alert the Medic, who is incredibly sensitive to sound, and also incredibly fast. The Medic ties best in the Scout and Demo Man, as upon being spotted, they'll let out a cry, and the Medic will rush to the Demo Man's aid. The Scout, while not exactly fast, throws a tantrum when they lose you, again alerting the Medic. There's a slight chance that with this cry, the Medic will rush straight down the corridor you're running through, killing you outright. After again completing the objective and escaping, we're brought to the final level of the game, the server room. But let's look at these freaks of nature we saw first. Starting with the Medic, of course. Following the trend a fair bit of the monsters in this game follow, the Medic is mostly the same from the neck down. Though again, their head is malformed and changed, as its mouth is widened, its head shape changed, and it's missing both of its eyes. Its entry says this: the Mad Doctor roams the Cornfield, looking after his subordinates and doing unspeakable things to any foreigners it comes across. While not as nimble as the Heavy, the Medic has the fastest investigation speed in the game, gunning for any loud sounds it hears at breakneck pace. If you ever need to make a loud sound, be prepared for a chase. Next up is the Scout, who now resembles something similar to the Heavy or a gorilla, as they stomp about in search of the player. Of the current set of monsters we see, the Scout is one of the most heavily altered, and one of my favorites because it throws loud tantrums when it can't catch you, the player. Its entry says this: the hulking Scout keeps a watchful eye over the Cornfield, spotting intruders with a much longer line of sight. While the corruption has taken away his agility, his ego remains unchanged, and if escaped, he will throw a loud tantrum, making a loud noise for any of his comrades to hear. Last up in this area is the Demo Man. Reduced to a lone, floating, albeit giant head, they are completely immobile, and instead act as surveillance, where it will cause a loud, alerting cry, signaling monsters like the Medic to come running to its aid. Their entry says this: a completely immobile warden, standing guard at the only exit to the Cornfield. Should any intruders get near, he'll make a loud sound to alert any other Reds to come to his aid, making your escape even more stressful. Finally, we're brought to the server room. After his journey, the spy is tasked with shutting down 8 servers. While this would seem like a fairly easy task at first, Each time you interact with the server, the blight of an engineer will teleport to a predetermined spot hidden on the floor, meaning unless you have a way around them, or they forgot about you, getting cornered will almost always be lethal. However, it's with enough elbow grease and likely insane luck I managed to finally escape, closing the final level out. But before we watch the normal ending cutscene, let's look at the engineer, who, despite the off-putting A-pose, is completely normal, at least until you see the bizarre artifacting and morphing they do while teleporting about. Finally, let's look at their bio. An omnipresent enigma, and the Intelligence's personal guardian. Among the most dangerous faces on the red team. What the engineer lacks in speed is an ability to instantly teleport, warping straight to his machinery to catch you when you tamper with it. He can only teleport to certain points marked in the ground with a red notch. When you're forced to interact with his machines, keep track of his teleport points and be absolutely positive you have an escape route. This reveals something rather interesting to us. The intelligence itself is a, outside intelligence. As of now, I don't have a solid reasoning or goal in mind the intelligence itself is aiming to complete or meet. However, what this does confirm is that likely everything we've been seeing is some type of manipulation courtesy of this intelligence. Now, on to the cutscene.
What the hell? Yes! Oh, ho, 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 ho. Dancing! It is the forbidden dance! Ho, 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 ho. Yes! Oof. Cheers!
Surprise! Happy! Big step! Oh, ho, ho, look! Moist asparagus. That is engineering!
Oh no.
One thing I really love about this cutscene is how it's edited and made to look like an old Gmod animation. As a kid, I loved watching things like that, so to know this game took place entirely inside of one of these series is quite fun and refreshing for a horror project. However, the ending leaves us on a cliffhanger. The intelligence wasn't destroyed. The engineer is still with it, both in some dark, red place, likely planning their next moves. This leaves us with two more things to look at. Hard mode and the tower. The tower is a massive 50-level endeavor where dying sends you back to the very beginning. Hard mode is, hard mode. Before we go on to the tower, let's take care of hard mode, which sports increased difficulty, different levels and monsters, and finally, and most importantly, a different ending. The first level, while unchanged, is now harder, as after capturing the intel once, we now deal with the soldier, who stalks the halls alongside a now seemingly faster and more aggressive Heavy. This, however, is the only same feeling level, as escaping and moving on to the next level brings us to GM_Big City, the new second level. While the objective is the same, it's made markedly harder with the addition of the medic, scout, snipers, and civilians. Snipers are stationed wherever gas cans are, and as you collect more and more, the level grows harder. First, the scout is added, then on the third can, the medic. Finally, increasingly large numbers of civilians flood the map, their explosions slowing the player and at the same time alerting the medic to your position. After finally making it through the level, we're brought to the Ratman's Tunnel, which we'll discuss after we look at the maps Turbine and GM Big City, specifically how they're described in the bestiary. a vaguely familiar location. Turbine is a construct where the intelligence's victims land up, lulling them into a false sense of nostalgic comfort to lower their guard. The intelligence in Turbine is fake, but must be captured regardless to open the gate. As the intelligence is captured, the Heavy will start placing barricades around the map to complicate your route. It is possible if the Turbine construct is overstressed, such as if set to a harder difficulty, you can find a crack and slip into a deeper level of the construct meant to remain unseen.
Success. We have secured the enemy intelligence.
Crack to a deeper level of the construct. Yes, after capturing the intel 3 times and interacting with the interloper spray painted on the wall, we're taken to an alternate turbine, where the monsters are the interloper and a massive black flying head of sorts. After escaping, it completely skips us over Big City and takes us to the Ratman's tunnel. But before we go back there, let's look at Big City. But now I have the sudden urge to cover the interloper. Big City is described like this in the bestiary. A more frantic location cobbled together by the intelligence. Big City is a recreation of yet another memorable location. As you would expect for a city, it is densely populated by a lot of monsters. Stealth is key in Big City. Use the buildings to your advantage, as getting spotted once and panicking can lead to a chain reaction you might not be able to handle. This again confirms that everything we're seeing as the spy is something constructed by the intelligence, and exclusive to the spy. Why exactly the intelligence is doing this to the spy and the spy alone, I currently have no clue. Back to the current level, we're forced to stalk through the sewers in search of 4 keycards that unlock 4 doors leading up to the exit gate. However, we're made to deal with 2 new enemies, the Ratman, who would have guessed, and one a bit out of left field, the Wicker Man, who appears at times and flies through walls to attack the player. On top of these 2, another named the ARG Man also appears, standing in corridors and blending in rather well with the environment. The worst they do, however, is simply blinding you for a moment with their jump scare. But with clever enough tactics and good dodging, we can make it to the next level, the factory. First, let's take a glance at the new enemies. The Ratman, while invisible, freezes for a moment when you see them, and during the chase remains visible. In the bestiary, it's described as such. A cryptic monster of unknown origin, found lurking for prey in dark spaces. While not officially siding with the Reds, it will side with them all the same if it means getting a fresh meal in the form of an unlucky spy that ends up in its tunnel. The Ratman is normally camouflaged, being very hard to spot, but it will drop its camouflage to chase you when it spots you. The process of changing its camouflage takes time, however, so use these precious seconds to get away from it as fast as you can. In appearance, it's a fleshy, skinny thing, made partly of flesh and gibbs, and almost appearing as pieced together remains. Namely because in terms of game design, they are, since they're pieced together from a corpse model, gibbs, and a detached heavy head. Next, we have the Wicker Man, a wireframe man simply covered in flames. One that appears beside you at random and pursues you for a time before again vanishing. It's described as such in the bestiary. A smoldering phantom that guards the Ratman's tunnels. It will appear beside you for giving chase. The Wicker Man, while slow, is dangerously persistent, increasing his pace to ensure he is always uncomfortably close to you, no matter how fast or far you run. If he is very close to you, however, he will slow down, so use this to your advantage to outmaneuver him, and make sure you don't get yourself in a position where you can't escape him. I think out of most of the cast, they're one of my favorite to play against. Finally, for this level, we have the ARG Man, a pure black G-Man model who waits around the tunnels, blending in, and upon contact, jump scares the player, blinding them for a moment and giving whatever was chasing them a chance to catch up if they were chasing in the first place. In the bestiary, they're described like this. A hallucinatory entity that appears to prey on the panic of those lost in the Ratman's tunnel. He will appear and remain stationed in inconvenient spots. While harmless, he will make a loud sound and obscure your vision if touched, so make sure you know what you're doing before passing through him. A common theme with these characters is that they aren't outright said to be affiliated with Red or the Intelligence. The three themselves, kinda like the interloper who sends you to the Ratman's tunnel if you beat the level they inhabit, is also paranormal or anomalous too, so it speaks to the nature of these characters quite a bit. So while these characters aren't a true Red asset, the next trio very much is. The factory level is quite unique. In this level, to progress and collect the 25 batteries needed to escape, you must use rocket turrets stationed around the map to blow up barricades to access more areas of the map. However, there are 3 new monsters here, mechanical horrors built by the engineer. One named the Minge uses a head-mounted fizz gun to slow Spy down. Another named the Mangle, not Mangle, Mangle, stalks through the factory through vents, and while slow, not paying attention can lead to a rather embarrassing end. Finally, there's Henry, what the engineer's sentry gun has become in this strange place. While in the line of sight, it uses its heat-seeking rocket launcher to attempt to stun the player, though it can also be used to break barricades and stun other monsters. On top of this, at points around the map, there are Demomen stationed about, all of which alert the mechanical monstrosities to your location. Finally, we have the little Demomen, tiny blue demolings that skitter about, sometimes directly to the spy with batteries in hand. Unless you count the snitch Demomen who sit in place, these are the only friendly NPCs in the game. Another thing to note is the rocket turrets can be used to stun other monsters on top of being used to open new paths. But that's not all. Henry can be used to do the exact same thing, only in a more special way. As located near the top of the map is a barricade no normal turret can reach. So you need to cleverly position yourself in a way you can dodge Henry's more aggressive rocket tracking to blow this barricade away. Inside, you find some graffiti and in a far corner, an arcade cabinet. One you can actually play. The game in question is titled Newbie and the Haunted House. Here's the synopsis we're given about the game.
Newbie was broke and needed to pay rent. Against his better judgment, he agreed to do a week of housekeeping for his neighbor. Little did he know, he didn't have a neighbor. Collect the 8 keys scattered around the house to escape.
The game itself plays as a more pixelated and cute version of Capture the Intelligence. The objective, as you know, is to roam the house and gather 8 keys so you can escape. All of this being done while you, as Newbie, avoid the false neighbor. The game itself is fairly harder due to the incredibly aggressive AI the neighbor has, and the even more limited vision radius the player has as Newbie. Also, the game's soundtrack is just so good. If this wasn't meant to be a horror game, I'd be getting down. But after escaping, this serves as an alternate, if not fairly harder way of moving on to the next level. I do also think this cutscene is incredibly funny as well. Before we move on, however, let's look at the engineer's monstrosities. First, we have the Minge, easily the largest and most custom of the group. It's made from gibs and different machinery, including a fizz gun that, albeit weak, can slow the player to a frustrating degree. It's described like this in the bestiary: a macabre machine that overpowers any of the factory's intruders. His trademark is his physics gun, which he will use without hesitation to drag you down. While dangerous enough on its own, its effectiveness doubles when you're under attack by any of his companions, as the physics gun slows you down heavily, making you easy prey. As with other sound-sensitive foes, however, he is vulnerable to clever use of loud sounds. So, if you must, try to kite him around by calling for medic in spots far away from where you need to go. Next, we have the Mangle, a red scout bot kit bashed with all kinds of different parts and bits, including a broken soldier head, Gatling gun arm, and a mostly functional claw arm with a massive saw attached. While incredibly slow due to all these parts more than likely, it uses the vents to move quickly around the factory and take the player off guard. Here's its entry. One of the engineer's unsuccessful machines. This lonely automaton spends its time slowly lurking around the factory. While slow, the Mangle can use the factory ventilation system to his advantage, traveling from vent to vent to catch you off guard. So be wary and try to keep track of where the vents are. Finally, we have Henry, the engineer's own sentry gun turned vicious, walking killing machine. Of all the mechanical monstrosities, I'd say it's the least threatening. Despite being armed with aggressive tracking rockets, the amount of cover around the map leaves it rather lackluster at best. The fact its own missiles can be turned on its comrades leaves it also feeling a little doofy at that. Here's its bestiary entry, and after this, info on the map. The Engineer's beloved sentry gun. This vicious machine is armed with heat-seeking missiles, making him a threat from any range. If you're in the line of sight, he will pause to fire a missile towards you. These missiles can be dodged easily, but they explode on impact, making a loud sound. If you're unlucky enough to get hit by one, not only will it knock you around, but it will also personally make a sound to attract the Engineer to your location. While difficult, you can also use Henry's missiles to stun other robotic enemies for a time. Now for the factory's info. A sprawling factory on the outskirts of the Cornfield. Used as a weapons testing field for the Engineer's more ambitious projects, as such, the factory is littered with volatile explosives and weaponry, and populated by a cast of vicious machines. The factory provides a quick passage to the Intelligence's sanctuary, but the gate leading to it is powered, and the power has run dry. Hopefully you can scrounge up enough batteries to charge the gate. On top of avoiding the robots, you'll also have to maneuver around landmines and missile turrets. In the latter case, however, you'll likely need to deliberately trigger the turrets to deal with the massive amounts of garbage blocking off your route. It is possible that the more underutilized zones of the factory can contain some interesting things, although getting to them may be more dangerous than anticipated. It's neat how it even mentions a hidden arcade game. Though, being an alternative to the Cornfield level, it was bound to do something much different either way, as instead of being brought to the final level after escaping the factory, we're brought to the lab. Yet another part of the Intelligence's twisted world, where this time we're charged with activating a series of fuses that unlock different parts of the map. The issue is, we're pursued by Saxton Hale and the Engineer themselves. Saxton Hale will pop out of vents near the player and chase at a pace nearly faster than the spy's run speed. The Engineer, on top of this, has predetermined points where they spawn around the map, meaning if you're being chased by Saxton Hale and the Engineer spawns in, it's nearly a guaranteed game over. On top of this, you're corralled to the top of the map where the final fuse lies. After activating it, the facility goes dark, and you're forced to run through a hard-to-see-in series of vents before finally escaping to the final level. This level's entry in the bestiary provides us with more info on the Intelligence. I'll read it out after we look at the level's premier monster, Saxton Hale. Unlike most monsters, they know where you are at all times, and choose to burst out of the nearest vent to pursue the player. Thanks to their breakneck speed of running, the rocket turrets I failed to mention are basically useless against them. This makes several parts of the level incredibly hard and stressful thanks to the ever-looming threat of them bursting out of the vents to attack you, the player. But with clever enough movement and map memorization, you can escape them 9 times out of 10. Here's our bestiary entry, and after that, the level's entry. The medic's most ambitious experiment, so successful he needed to be imprisoned in the depths of the laboratory to prevent him from massacring any more medics. Unspeakable amounts of time spent locked up has made him angrier than ever, and he's more than ready to rip your guts out should you dare invade his sanctuary. He spends most of his time stalking you underfoot through the laboratory's ventilation ducts. Should you get close to a vent cover, however, he'll immediately pop out to give chase. If you manage to lose him, he'll scope out the premises before hopping back into the vents. Unless you play his game smart and carefully, Saxton Hale will make your life hell. The Lab. A forgotten section of the Intelligence's sanctuary that was once used as an experimental facility to create dangerous, smarter monsters. Using a seemingly bottomless supply of medics to carry out his task, eventually their experiments proved successful. Too successful. That once bottomless supply of medics was eventually and quite messily exhausted, and to prevent any more casualties, the Intelligence chose to simply lock the entire facility down. Using the laboratory to infiltrate the sanctuary, you may be able to catch the Intelligence off guard. Just be wary, as the Engineer will likely take notice of your tampering. The laboratory is the most dangerous stage in the game. Keep careful track of the ventilation ducts, and above all else, play it careful. One mistake can cost you everything down there. These 2 entries and even some of the previous ones we've read, like the ones about the machines and even civilians, reveals that despite the Intelligence's ability to shape and mold worlds it either can't or doesn't want to create freaks from scratch. Perhaps this is something it likes to allow its creations to do for fun, or maybe it enjoys inflicting pain upon others. While the server room level is mostly the same, upon interacting with a single server, the engineer will fly through all obstacles around you before capturing you instantly, sending you into a series of winding halls where you're pursued, leading up to a massive chamber, one containing the spy's weapon of choice, a revolver that puts you up to a fight between the spy and engineer. Upon defeating them, however, the intelligence takes on a life of its own, the game going from a horror escape game to a bullet hell. After ultimately whittling its health down to 0, and we're brought to hard mode's ending cutscene. I'll allow it to play in full now.
All you need to do is take that first step. The world is yours. Why are you looking at me like that?
Flip time!
Nice throw!
Hey! Spy!
Engineer!
Yeah.
That is spy!
What?
Spy will fit you! Yes. We must find spy!
Alrighty then. Oh no! Stop that car! Move that gear up! Go, go, go! Okay. Get her! Whoosh! Spy! Engineer. Yee! Yee! Yeah!
I consider this to be the good ending of the game, or at the very least, the true ending. This ending features the conscience behind the intelligence making itself known. We know it to be alive, but what I believe we see here is its true nature come to light. On top of that, its desperation. It's been beaten outright. The only thing it can do to possibly save itself now is to plead, to bargain, and to try and suck the spy down the same exact hole it pulled his friend the engineer down. However, when it knows it won't work, that it's lost, and soon it will be destroyed, it throws all of that out the window and begins to berate and attempt to belittle and bully the spy into accepting it. Which he doesn't. Instead, the spy destroys the intel and seemingly sets the world right. As I believe it was only through its existence it could bend the world to what it wanted to be. That's why after it was destroyed, the engineer, whose spy was made to kill, returned to life. And all the things it had done to the world were returned back to the way they were. However, we still have one last thing to do. The tower and its ending. It has 50 levels you must navigate through and beat in a single sitting. If you die, you'll be sent all the way back to the very beginning, unless you find a dead ringer. To save on time, after completing all 50 levels, we're given a final cutscene. One I believe ties everything together and helps to completely explain the story this game tells. As per usual, I'll allow it to play in full.
What? Engineer. Very nice.
Heck no.
But
Get going! Ah, hell. Engineer!
oh. Many thanks.
Welcome to Intelligent Industries LLC. Well, don't that beat all? Woo-wee. Will you look at that? I'm moving this. What?
Your luck runs out.
Breaking news. Earlier today, the Intelligent Industries LLC building in Lower Arcadia appeared to suffer an electrical outage, promptly leading to its complete destruction. Paramedics on the scene have identified 0 casualties. A search warrant for the company's employees is underway. Stay tuned for more information.
This cutscene, I believe, gives us the beginning of the story. We see Spy venturing through the remains of the now haunted Gmod tower in search of something. This something is a ghostly gibbous for none other than the Spy's best friend, Engineer. I believe the tower not to be a construct of the Intel specifically, because we're told that this place came to be after the Gmod tower was abandoned originally. So that gave way to things like the Ratman and co. moving in. The freaks can be explained away as a gameplay choice, if anything. After gaining his prize, the Spy aims to give it to his friend the Engineer, though they're hardly receptive to it, considering they're seemingly at work. While the Spy goes to drown their sorrows at the bar, the Engineer, who seems rather unhappy with their life, returns to their place of work after watching a seemingly classified tape talking about the company's goal, where they learn about what the intelligence is and is supposed to do. It's here they break in, attacking the medic we saw prior before taking the intel. But before they can make off with their prize, they're shot in the back by a heavy who inadvertently damages the intelligence, beginning this whole nightmare for the Spy, who at the time is sulking at home, and upon discovering the destruction of the building the Engineer works at, likely heads upstairs to play some Team Fortress 2, where the game begins for the Spy. Depending on the difficulty we choose, the Spy can either successfully escape the intelligence without destroying it, leaving it beaten for the moment with its Engineer slave still at its side, or in the hard mode, outright destroy it, setting things right and saving the Spy's dearest friend, giving everyone a happy ending. Now, I'm a big fan of the idea all of this takes place within the world of one of those wacky Gmod animations I used to watch as a kid. But there's always a possibility it really is some regular player and person being the one sucked into all of this. But you have to admit, the evidence, while a bit stretched at times, is there to back up my ideas. I also think it makes the game all the more charming when you put it like that. Now that we're here at the end, I'd again like to thank the video's thumbnail artist Lauren, who did an amazing job on this piece. Go give him a follow on Twitter if you can. And I'd also like to tell you about my Discord server, a place where horror fans, artists of all kinds and more can mingle and share their works. There's a link in the description for that too. And another thing, do like, comment, and especially subscribe if you like the video. It encourages me to make more and lets me know what you all enjoy. There should already be some art on the screen from the wonderful artists from my Discord server here now. And with that, I'm Dregobob. I hope you're having a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye bye!